Good morning, everyone. So, anyone is there, right? Good morning. So, we'll start the class. Anyway, first of all, little bit introduction, right? We have already started that, and already 3 units are completed, and that you can find in your Google Classroom. So, the first thing, exam is like less than 10 days, right? And in 10 days we have to cover almost everything, right? We have very less time, and we need revision. We also need to solve questions, PYQs and all. We have to do mock tests. So many things are there to do. Of course, you might have made so many notes with you, and you need to revise them also, right? And in 10 days, what you can do, what I would recommend, don't keep everything, you know, like together to revise everything together. Go in a series so you'll be able to revise everything on time. Like in 10 days, you know what benefits is there to do PYQ explanation, because it not only clears all, revise all the, covers all the topics and units, but also gives you practice, right? It, through that you can gain insight of the questions, what you gain judgment. You with practice you can develop your judgment, your reasoning. You can manage your time, you know how to solve it, because reading everything and not paying attention in PYQs or doing mock test is like you are not doing the thing that is required right now. And it is required solving every mock test, every PYQs, no PYQ. So here we'll start from unit 4, and you might think like communication is easy for you, and of course it's easy. I mean, you have chances to score all 5 correct, but there are something like reasoning type question is there, statements type questions are there. So through that, no, we get sometime we make mistakes there, and in that session we'll cover that a lot. And in this unit we have 50 questions, like all 2019 to 2023. All the questions are based on whatever they have asked, and it is actually from there, if you would say, from all the exams we have selected good questions. And 50 means you have to you have 1 hour to complete like 50 questions, right, in exam. But these days I think you can take more than 1 hour, if not more. So today we'll just begin. Remember, only 25 question we'll cover in this video, but if you, and the rest 25 question will be in your Google Classroom. So if you like it, if you like the class, and if you find it useful after watching this class, you can go to the description box in this video and you can join. Or I have already shared links to join in your WhatsApp group also, right? So there you can join if you like the class. So before that, we have only 1 hour to cover 25 questions, and we will start right away. So whoever is there, just say start in the chat box, and then we'll begin. Got it? So the first thing is there. We'll start now. People will join later. Anyway, the first question says we have to match from set A to set B. Okay. Here is the media and here is the transmission and communication. You have to judge which one is the. So first of all, newspaper. What will begin with audio. So what happens in the audio? Tell me. Does it use bandwidth or linear communication or frequency or non-personal communication? Which one do you think? The first one is. Tell me, and then we'll move. So in audio, no, suppose you're taking example of a radio. Mostly you get audio from that, right? I mean, we are just taking example, and this only happens what with frequency, right? With frequency modulation. So if you take audio, radio is the best example of like a audio, right? You listen from that. So if sometime you face problem, no, like there is no specific word radio, but some example you can add and judge correctly. So this could be our frequency modulation. Advertising is what? So advertising is like you don't communicate there, right? You send announcement, you publish your product, you introduce your product, or you advertise yourself, your personal brand and all, right? So what happens there? It is non-personal communication. It is not personal, right? And internet, when internet comes, you always ask now, what is the speed of your internet? And how do you judge? With the bandwidth, right? You judge like that mbps per second is there. So that is simply what? Bandwidth. Got it? And newspaper is your linear we are left with. So this is the simple, but if you would only know one thing, no, here A is frequency, A is forward in only one option. So even if you know one, you could answer with that also. And if you know only internet, like bandwidth, C1 is where only in one option, right? Through that you can also answer. So 3 is our correct answer. We'll just move to question number. No, we'll just explain what it is. So audio is a form of media that we know, and it transmitted using FM, like frequency modulation. Advertising is what? It is non-personal communication where messages are conveyed to large audience. Fine. And we have the internet is a medium through which which information is transmitted, allowing for various form of communication. It uses what? Bandwidth. A newspaper is what? It is a medium that delivers news and information using linear communication. Okay, we'll use mouse because through that I can do just. So that is our question number first. We'll begin with question number second, and second says we don't have to look at the answer. Okay, so if you know the answer, write in the chat box quickly. Okay, we'll use that pad for mathematics. I think it's enough for us to use highlighter. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, question number second is in your screen. Tell me the answer if you know quickly. Mass media, it is talking about mass media, right? And it says do not have predetermined functions for everyone. Okay, the statement says do not have predetermined function for everyone. People use them, okay, how they like, right? They use the mass media as however they like, and this is suggestive of the fact that you have to answer, is it audience are active there, or it is content is of little significance, or content lacks plurality, or audience are homogenization. What do you think is the answer? Tell me. Okay, so our answer is this: audiences are active. And why? We have the explanation for that. So the statement suggests that audiences are active in their engagement with mass media. And this means what happens, the individual have freedom to use internet, you use and interpret media content according to their own preferences, interests and needs, right? And it recognizes that audience have agency and can make choices about how they engage with media, rather than passively accepting predetermined functions of the meanings or imposed by the media. So our answer is the audience are active there. And why the other are wrong, we have the explanations for that too. And content is of little significance. So this option suggests that content of mass media is not important or meaningful to the audience. That is completely, because it is important, right? However, this is not align with the statement provided. So the statement emphasizes that people use mass media according to their own preferences. That is our statement in the question, right? So implying that they find value and significance in the content they use, they choose to engage with. Fine, great. And the second says the content lack plurality. Of course, this is completely wrong, because it is the content in mass media are has plural values, and this option implies that the content of mass media lacks diversity and variety, and which is completely wrong in the statement that they say that it addresses the diversity of plurality of content. So mass media is about diversity and plurality, right? So this option is completely wrong. And audiences are homogeneous. And why this option means is that all the same or have similar characteristics, and that is completely wrong, because the statement implies by emphasis that the people use mass media in the ways that suit their individual preferences. It acknowledges the diversity and uniqueness of audiences rather than assuming homogenization. So when we read a question, you might find the answer correctly, that like audience are active, you also know, but remember that through these options now we can gain more things about the particular question. All the insight is there, the judgment you will gain. This is quite important, and that's what we covered in extra part. Whatever the other option is there, we have covered that also. So it's quite important. And question number 3 is in your screen. Tell me, the question says it is about communication process. Okay, can be considered complete. So the word complete communication is when what happens, the sender transmit the message. It is the first process, right? So that is not like complete. It is like the sender's part, like sender has sent something to the receiver, recipient, but we don't know that if he has understood the message or not, right? So this is not complete. Here again, it's the It's not complete because we don't know, we are not aware or assured that the receiver has understood the message. So this is completely not there, right? The message enters the channel. So channel can be your telephone, your internet, your messages and all, right? The sending process. That doesn't mean that, okay, if the sender has transmitted the message through the channel, okay, but we still don't know if the receiver has received or understood the message that we are sending. So that too is completely not there, right? The message leaves the channel. It's kind of, okay, now message is message left the channel and is with the recipient, right? But we are not sure if he understood, the receiver understand the message, right? So this is the complete. Now our communication process is completed because the message that we sent through the channels, the receiver received, is now completely understood, that he understood the message that we send. That's when your communication is complete, and that is also called effective communication, right? So through in that, I think we have taken that class before, not this, but I think 3-4 months ago, about the effective communication. So that is the main goal of effective communication, that the receiver has understood, interpret and given a good feedback, is a kind of effective communication. I hope you understand question number 3. We have the explanation why the option captures the essence of complete communication, right? So communication is considered successful when the receiver comprehend and interpret the message as intended by the sender, right? So this is our keyword for the complete communication process or effective communication process, right? Understanding is the ultimate goal of any communication. That is the goal of the communication, that the receivers have to understand this. So the receiver understand the message, the process can be considered completely considered complete, right? Extra part, why the other option? Because the sender is like, it is the initial step that we know, and where the sender sends the message, that is. However, communication is a two-way process, right? And it is not complete unless the receiver transmitted or a receiver received the message and understood. So the receiver's understanding and response are crucial for the process to be considered complete. Okay, so that's why we have ignored that option, and that is completely wrong for the question. So the message enters the channel. This is also like easy, right? I have already explained, but it can be, the channel can be through verbal or written communication. And while this is an important step in the process, again, it does not necessarily indicate that the communication is complete. The message leaves the channel. This option refers to the message leaving the communication channel, indicating that it has been transmitted. However, transmission alone does not ensure, again, that the communication is complete, right? Question number 4 is in your screen. You have to answer. If you know, write in the chat box quickly. Okay, fine. So the question 4 says it is about a customer who is writing to a bank about what his message is like. Kindly send me a statement of my transaction in my savings bank account. So a customer who's during the last 3 months, in terms of communication, it will be what? Is it a request? Of course it's a request, right? And what it is the input or the output is not, definitely feedback is not, because we didn't get any feedback. So uh, here simple is, it's like a message that we are sending, right? So that is our correct answer. It was simple, right? And why? In terms of communication, the customer request to the bank can be referred to as a message. Why? Because message is a kind of the information, right, or the content that is transmitted from the sender to a receiver in the communication process. In this scenario, the customer is communicating their specific request again for a statement. If there was an option request, it would have been also correct. So for their transaction in their saving bank account, and this request constitute what the message being conveyed to the bank. And what is input there? Input is like the data that is provided or entered into a system of communication process. In the given scenario, the customer's request to the bank for a statement of their transaction serve as the input. So example would be the customer filing out a form with their personal details and transaction information to request a statement. So that is the example of input. And message that already we have discussed here, that is there, right? And the sender to the message is, so it refers what? The content or information that is transmitted from the sender to the receiver in communication process. Okay, example is what? The customer's written request to the bank, right, asking them to send a statement. That was our in question also, right? And output is what? Output is the result or response generated by a system or communication process. Example, the bank generating is sending the requested statement of the customer's transaction in their savings bank account for the last 3 months serve as the output of this communication. Feedback is simple, refers to the response or reaction provided by the receivers to the sender's message, right? Example would be the customer receiving the statement from the bank and sending a thank you or email or calling the bank to express their appreciation serves as the feedback in this communication scenario. I hope you understand this question completely now, right? Question number 5 is in your screen. If you know the answer, write in the chat box quickly. So the question number 5 says that the context of communication is the usual. Tell me the usual sequence is here. So the option is there. Is it language first, then communication, or the society, or the civilization? What do you think? It starts not with the language, but it starts with what? Communication. So the first in 2, it might be the first, but communication and then society doesn't come, right? Communication starts, then what happened? Language starts, and then we have society, and the later part is the civilization. So that is our correct answer, and the explanation is there. The usual sequence in the context of communication is the communication is the first, which can be transmitting and exchanging the information, could be ideas or the message, okay, and it forms the foundation of human interaction and enables the sharing and thoughts and expressions. Then the second is language, is a system that we know that consists of words, symbols, rules convey, and it can be your thought, right? Express their thoughts, emotions, ideas and all in the word, or it can be. So next is society. Through that we form a society, right? So it refers a group of individuals who shares common values, belief, custom and practice. It provides the social context within which communication occurs. And at the end we have the civilization. And what happens? It encompasses the complex social, cultural and technological development of the society, right? So that is our answer. So Communication is the first, then the language, then becomes society, and at the end we have the civilization, right? And question number 6 is in your screen. Swapping of encoder and decoder roles in the communication happens due to what? Cognitive disruption, semantic noise, feedback, analysis, weak channelization. You have to tell me the answer in the chat box. Just write what you think, either 1, 2, 3. So swapping, remember, swapping of encoder decoder roles in communication, right? Tell me. So swapping of encoder roles in communication happens what? Due to feedback analysis. So feedback refers to the information or the response, as we have discussed, by the receivers and conveyed back to the sender. So it allows what? The sender to evaluate the effectiveness of their message and make necessary adjustment. So when feedback is analyzed, it provides what? Insight into how message was understood, right, or interpreted by the receiver. In some cases, this analysis can lead to reversal of roles, where the receiver takes on the role of the encoder and provides feedback or a response with a message of their own. So this swapping of roles ensure that the dynamic and interactive communication process, what it allows for effective understanding and exchange for information between who? Sender and a receiver. So our feedback analysis, through that only we can do the what? Swapping of encoder and decoder, because sometime decoder understand message and then he has to explain to the encoder, so that in that way decoder becomes encoder and encoder becomes decoder, right? So that happens when the feedback analysis happens. Semantic noise is all about what? It is actually the barriers in communication that arises from what? Semantic, through signs and words, right? So it is the difference in the interpretation and understanding of the words and symbols. So that is semantic noise, which is the barrier of in communication. So when this occurs, when semantic noise occurs, the intended meaning of the message may be distorted or misunderstood by what? Leading to swapping of encoder and decoder. For instance, if two individuals have different cultural backgrounds, right, or speak different languages, they might struggle to accuracy, then encode and decode message. This result in a role reversal to clarify and understand the intended meaning. Feedback analysis, that is what our answer was, right? We have discussed. So swapping is what? This role can happen due to feedback analysis, and feedback analysis is something that we evaluating the response or feedback received from the receivers and adjusting the encoding and decoding process accordingly. Okay, weak channelization is different because it is the limitation of a deficiency in the communication channel through which the message is transmitted. Suppose the channel is not able to effectively transmit the message, such as in case of poor signal reception or technical issues. In that case, it can result in a swapping of encoder decoder roles. So the sender may need to adopt the role. So our answer is what? The feedback analysis. So question number 7 is in your screen. It is about assertion and reason. Assertion says classroom communication is pre-decided by the social and institutional demands, right? Classroom communication says is pre-decided is it by social and institutional demands? Right, this statement seems uh, correct, because it happens, right? We cannot, I mean, classroom communication mostly is pre-decided by social and institutional demands. So the positive is because if it is about assertion and reason, we have to add because, right? So because the positive educative actions should guide learners to acquire knowledge of social significance, and that is quite good explanation for that as well. So it seems both are true and it is the correct explanation. So our answer is this, right? So anyway, explanation is there. Assertion was saying that the classroom communication is pre-decided, right? By who? By social and institutional demands, and this means that the communication takes place in classroom is influenced by what? Our social norms, expectation, institutional requirements that shape educational environment, right? uh, the reason says that that states that positive educative action should guide learners to acquire knowledge of social significance. This means that the purpose of classroom communication is to facilitate positive and meaningful learning experience for a student, where they gain what? Knowledge and understanding that the relevant is significant in the society, in the social context. And the both are good. In the classroom environment we have certain rules, right? We create classes for what? For society mostly. Education is the other part, but to make you a good citizen, right? Good citizen, good human, good. So through that we create a particular set of uh, what norms and the demands. Here it says no, in our pre-decided by social and institutional demand, because positive educative action should guide learners to acquire knowledge of social significance. Question number 8 is in your screen. You have to answer quickly. Classroom communication. Now they are talking about classroom communication is what? Dictatorial, purposeful, pragmatic, or like a computer program? Tell me the answer. Which one do you think is the correct? Write in the chat box quickly. Like a computer is definitely wrong. We cannot, it is not like a computer, it's completely different, right? We have some set of classroom communication that we follow, right? So purposeful should be there, that is definitely right. And we have what? D, it should be pragmatic. What do you understand by pragmatic? So it should focus on practical consideration and real world application. It aims to provide practical knowledge and skills that students can apply in their lives, right? So for that we have our answer pragmatic. So classroom communication refers what? Purposeful, it should be pragmatic. Dictatorial cannot be, we can't dictate, right? So first, why not dictatorial? Because it is incorrect description. Why? Because classroom communication, as it suggests, is an authoritarian or oppressive style, which is not characteristics of effective classroom communication. That encourages students. That is not, dictator is not there. Like a computer, definitely not, is not accurate description of classroom communication. Our answer is simply C and D. One, it should be purposeful and it should be pragmatic. Pragmatic means is like meaning. It is focused on practical consideration and real world application, right? So that is our answer. Question number 9, it is talking about when a large number of students with different performance levels are there in the class for uniform imparting of educative interaction, a teacher should opt for communication, which is what? When a large number of students, right, with different performance level are there in the class, right? There can be different kind of students with a large number, like they have the different performance level for uniform imparting of educative interaction. Okay, so a teacher should opt for what? Technology enabled or individual centric, self projected or top down and linear. So that is our answer, top down and linear. Why? Because in the context of this question, the most suitable option is one which is top down and linear, which means that the teacher leads in imparting educative interaction following a structured and social sequential approach. The teacher provides clear instructions, presents information in a step-by-step manner, and maintains control over the classroom activities. This approach ensures that all students receive consistent and uniform instruction regardless of their performance level. So, step by step manner, remember, and top down and linear, which is actually like step by step manner. Technology enabled is in a large number of students with different performance level can be beneficial. Yes, technology tools such as interactive whiteboards, multimedia presentation, online learning platform and other things, right? For example, is adaptive learning software can adjust difficulty level of assignments based on each student. But our close answer is this, the top down and linear. Individual centric can it be? It also focuses on understanding and what specific needs, right? It is not, if we are talking about what large number through the keyword, right, you see large number of students, then how can it be individual, right? So it is definitely not. Self projected is only for self, one to himself, right? So that is also wrong. All three options seems completely, and there is no like close relationship. So even nothing is closer to that one. Technologically enabled is there if it is a large number, but here is talking about different performance level. So that's why we have to guide or talk in a linear way and also in a step-by-step manner. So that is our correct answer, right? And self-projected is what? It involves encouraging student to take ownership of their learnings by setting goals, reflecting their progress and actively participating in the learning process. But now we are talking about the large number, right? It can be useful, but linear is our close answer. Question number 10 is in your screen. Classroom interaction are influenced largely by what? Classroom interaction. Classroom interaction is what? It can be with teacher or students. Is it a student's commitment or teacher-centric environment, organizational oversight, unsolicited intervention? So classroom happens what? When the student's commitment is there. Even if you as a teacher try to communicate, and if students are not interested, then the classroom interaction is not right. So students' commitment is our answer. We'll just explain all the other option, like first teacher centric environment. In a teacher centric environment, classroom interaction are heavily influenced by teacher section, like decision and teaching style, right? The teacher takes the central role in directing and controlling the interaction, leading the discussion and making decisions about the learning activities. So the teacher's instruction approach, communication style, and classroom management share the dynamic of the classroom interaction, but it mostly is, even if this happens, if students commitment is not there, then the classroom interaction will not be effective, right? So the organizational oversight, so this happens when it refers the influence of the school educational institution on classroom interaction. This includes factors such as the school's policy, curriculum, guideline. This is completely not there, right? This is not required in classroom interaction. This is like outside of the class what happens, right? Through that institutions and their policies and all. So that is completely wrong here. And unsolicited what intervention, what is that? It refers what unplanned interruption or disruption in the classroom. So through the name we can just simply ignore, right? This is not that. It can be the barrier of classroom communication, not the interaction. So most suitable answer is what? The students commitment. Why? Classroom interaction are largely influenced by the level of engagement and the participation and dedication shown by the students. When students are actively involved in the learning process, contribute to discussion, ask questions, and demonstrate a genuine commitment to their interaction, right? That's fine. Now you can just see my pointer correctly. Anyway, match. Now we have the match the following. First list says it contains example, and the second has the type of communication. Which one is that? Meaningless sound and word. Where there is not meaningless sound and word, what can be the answer? Is it what? Polysemy? Or is it dyadic communication? Or it is paralinguistic? Or non-verbal communication? Tell me. Meaningless sound. Let's find which one do you think is closer. Okay, traffic light signal. This is what? Is it polysemy, didactic? We can understand. No, the traffic light signal is what? It is non-verbal, right? It is not verbal. It is through signs and symbols. So words that have different meaning is simple what? When the words are the same but the meanings are different, that is what we have discussed about it, right? That is polysemy. And two persons exchanging greetings, that is dyadic. Like two person, it is like process, right? Two-way process. So two person exchanging greetings is what? Simply dyadic communication. Through dia we understand this. So D second is where? D second is in only one option, right? And traffic lighted signal, even one of these options, if you know, you will opt the correct option from the questions, right? So that is our answer. Simple. Traffic lights is non-verbal. It can be, they use color red, yellow, green, right? So we know through symbols and their signs and what the meaning contains. contains, right? So see the words that have different meaning, that is polysemy, where a single word has multiple meanings or interpretation. Words with different meaning can create ambiguity or require context for proper understanding. And two-person is like dyadic communication, where what happens, communication refers that occurs between two individuals or in one-on-one sitting. To exchange greeting between two person involves direct interaction and communication between them. Therefore, our answer is that. Now we are talking about cultural institutions in communication. Cultural institution. So the sequence, when what occurs first. It is easy, right? First is what? Your family or your school or your religion. You get interacted by what first? Tell me. Simple, right? You first know about the family because there you grow. Then is the society, right? Or the school or the religion. Tell me. So we form our society where in the school we learn about it. No, we mingle together, we learn together. It forms a like bigger. First is the smaller society, right? And then we go to little bit bigger society like in the school, and then in the religion based, and then we have what at the end? The mass media. So it's like the same A B C D. There is already given the answer, I think. Yeah, A B C D. The family, the primary cultural institution where individual learns what? The basics of communication, language and social interaction. In school, what happens? It plays communication development by providing formal education, teaching and communication skills, literacy and larger language proficiency. And the religion is what? It is the cultural institution that influence communication practices and values. We have the mass media. Mass media refers to what? Various forms of communication channels such as television, radio and internet. That is quite broad reach and influence on large audiences. Got? Audience. And we have question number 13. It is about assertion and reason. You have to answer quickly in the chat box. What do you think? How much time is remaining for our class? Seems like we have already 52 minutes. Okay, assertion says giving orders to students in the classroom is a specific form of communication. Giving orders to students in the classroom is a specific form of communication because the manner of orders depends what upon the cultural background of students involved. So tell me which one do you think is the correct? Then does it explain the assertion? The reason explains the assertion or not? Tell me if you're there in the chat box, and then I will explain a little bit. So of course, giving orders to students in the classroom is a specific form of communication. That's true because the manner of order depends upon the cultural background of the students involved. So seems both are true and also R is the correct explanation of assertion. So why? As it says no, that the giving orders is a kind of like a specific form of communication. Why? Because issuing orders involve what? Conveying instruction or commands to other, which is clear instance of communication. Reason states what? It is the cultural background of the students involved. Why the cultural background is important? Because while this statement may be true in some cases. It does not provide a direct explanation of A, but it has some what. So the manner of giving order in the classroom can be influenced by various factors such as the cultural background, the teaching style, disciplinary approach, or the specific context of the classroom. However, the fact that giving orders is a form of communication is not solely dependent on cultural background. But our answer is both A are true and R is the correct explanation. So reason completely does not completely explain, but in some way it explains. That's why we have. But in our answer it is that. But if you answer like really through reading and all, it would be that. But we'll go with the UGC answer key, this one, right? This is our answer, that is UGC 1. And which of the following factors are important in communication? What factors happen in communication? You have to answer. There are 4 options and write in the chat box. Is it slang? Factors important in communication? Is it slang is important factor? Do you think? No, right? Anyway, it's all up to you. You just answer. We have talked about framing, priming, conditioning and all, right, in communication. So this two is definitely should be there, right? This two should be there. And immediacy. What do you mean by immediacy? Immediacy, it is like the degree of perceived physical or psychological closeness, like you hug, you shake hands, like your body language, and you have eye contact, and you through like immediacy you communicate with that. So that what happens that like actually enhances the personal connection, interpersonal connection, and the engagement. So that is also the form of communication. And slang is important in communication? No, right? Why not? Because slang may have been you don't use, you use in communication, but it is not important. So slang is not. Cynical attitude cannot be also. So cannot be there in the, it is not important aspects or factors in the communication. We have framing, priming, and so if you know only two this, where is CD together? It seems into option right here. And immediacy also, through that you can simply answer. That is your correct answer. We'll just discuss 10 more questions, and then in the second class, which will take around 4 o'clock, just be there and we'll finish communication today. So we have already done teaching aptitude, we have done research aptitude, comprehension you don't need, but at the end of the day, anyway, we'll take some time for comprehension reading, which is our 3rd unit, and the 4th one communication that we are taking now, and we'll finish today. Tomorrow there will be 5th one is mathematical aptitude, right? We'll talk about that. It's gonna be like tiny session, 50 questions we have to do, but we'll do it quickly. So tomorrow that will be about unit 5 mathematical aptitude. Then we'll have logical reasoning, and then we have data interpretation, and then we'll move to the ICT. We'll have talk about the environment, people and environment at the end. So in like 4 days, 4 to 5 days, we'll finish off your this thing, paper 1. So be there, that's quite important. I'll only post 25 questions public link, and the rest will be private link. And to access that all, you have to join, and it is the process is there in your description box, and also I've sent that in your WhatsApp groups. Okay, so anyway, we are talking about framing, priming, immediacy, right? Framing is what? Framing is the way in which information is presented or organized to the shape and the perception of understanding of the message. It involves what? Selecting and emphasizing certain aspects of message to influence its interpretation. And priming is what? Priming happens when it is a kind of process that influencing an individual perception, memory, or response to stimulus by exposing them to related stimulus beforehand. It requires a lot of time. It is like a process, big process. It involves like activating certain mental concepts, association to influence subsequent thoughts or behavior. Immediacy, as we talk about, it is like non-verbal, like eye contact, body language, verbal cues that we talked about. And slang and cynical, it is not important, but in today for the young people it is kind of, they do that, but it is not important in communication, right? So in communication, the interpretation, right? Question number 15. In communication, the interpretation of the message depends upon what? The context, the transmission speed, associated noise. That is definitely not right. Interpretation, we are talking about interpretation. Transmission and speed, it plays important role, but unless it is like you understand the context of the message that you understood. When the receiver sends a message, when they interpret the context, what is being interpreted? The context, right? So that is our simple question. It was. So that's why we don't have explanation for that. But anyway, context is something whatever the idea is there, whatever the message you are trying to send to the receiver, and that the context he understood the message, the idea that you have shared, that is understood by the receiver, that is the context, right? And the reframing is what? Reframing, we talked about in communication, priming and reframing. It is the employment of new metaphors. So through explanation is like reframing in communication refers to the act of presenting, understanding a concept, right, situation or issue from a different perspective by employing new ideas, new metaphors or frame. It involves what? Shifting the context or framing of a message to alter its meaning or what? Interpretation. So by using new metaphor, communicators can change the way people perceive or think about particular topic. We'll just move to the question number 17. The rest 30 question we'll talk about. We'll discuss that in the evening class 4 p.m. So be there. We'll try to cover 30 more question and just finish off that communication. It is all from previous year question papers. So remember, that's quite important. So through that, what is happening? You are getting practice also, and you're also gaining inside of the question. So understand that every day we are going to finish one unit, and that's we have to do that the next 9 days. And that whatever the classes you have missed, you can find it in your Google Classroom. So anyway, question number 17, which of the following contributes the effective cross-cultural communication? It is talking about effective and the cross-cultural communication. Quick flow of the words, When it is cross cultural communication, do you think that the quick flow of word is important? I mean, does it include? No, right? Because it is about effective, not quick. This is definitely not there. Use of foreign words. How it is cross cultural, you try to communicate with the language that the person that you are communicating or so you don't use the foreign words, right? Can it be? No, right? Selection of simple word, that is what happen when you meet person from different country or different state. You use simple words, you don't put like very heavy words or a foreign word or the quick flow, the quickly, right? The person would not understand. So the selection of simple words is definitely there. And taking turns to of course you cannot always speak and you won't understand that the person is understanding or not. So you share the cultural values by taking turns to speak. That should be there. Maintenance of etiquette, that is very important also. That means like etiquette means like you respect their culture, right? It is quite essential for your effective cross cultural communication. It means that you understand and adapt to appropriate their behavior, their customs and protocols in different culture. You don't criticize their culture, right? What you do, you respect. So that should be there. Our answer should be C, D and E. Where was C, D and E? It's only one. So you could, that is our answer also. So selection of simple word, taking turn to speak. What happens in taking turn? Allowing each person to have a chance to speak and actively listening to others promotes effective communication. Taking turns to speak ensure that everyone has an opportunity to express their thoughts, perspective, and fostering an inclusive and respectful communication environment. Right? Nice. Maintenance, I talk about, we discussed, right? The respecting cultural norms and etiquette is essential for cross communication. You respect their behavior, custom and their protocol. So on the other hand, there are cross equivocal words of flow may hinder the understanding, and especially when you use the foreign language, it is kind of barrier, because you would not understand if the person will know the language or these words or not. So that will be your what kind of miscommunication. Question number 18 is two statement. Cross communication promotes what? Teamwork in the classroom. And statement, of course, cross communication promotes teamwork. That is true. Right through the word we can understand it's true. Or is it incorrect? Cross communication. Just 1 second. Yes. OTP, okay. Just 8035. Yes. Okay, thank you. Sorry for the disturbance. Anyway, cross communication promotes what? Teamwork in the classroom. Statement 1 is incorrect. Why? We just have the explanation what. It is not necessarily, true. While cross communication, which involves interaction between individuals from different backgrounds, can potentially contribute to teamwork in the classroom, it is not guaranteed, But effective teamwork is what depends on various factors, including effective communication, shared goal, cooperation, and mutual understanding. Statement second says the exactness of communication in a cross-cultural setting, inflexible and responsive. And this statement is true because in cross-cultural setting, what happens? It is exactness or precision in communication may require what flexibility and responsiveness. So due to the cultural differences, language barriers, or varying communication style, the exact meaning of the message may need to be adapted or adjusted to ensure understanding and avoid what misunderstanding. Fine. Question number 19. Simple. It would be simple. It is only talking about sequence. Chronologically. Chronological order you have to arrange this. Tell me which came first. Internet. Of course, it's the last one, right? Where is he last? In only one option. Quite easy, right? In like 5 seconds you could answer. 10 seconds. So B should be our answer, right? First, you should understand the newspaper came, and it is easy. We have the newspaper, the earliest form of mass media, and film was the invention. The invention of film and development of cinema marked the significant advancement in communication technology. Then we had radio through the sequencing we understood, through the broadcasting of news, music, and then we had the television. And television was also like audio visual content and broadcasting it directly to the household. And the internet at the end, we have the internet. Easy, right? Question number 20, we are talking about the prayers. We are talking about match the list. The first one is prayer. You have to find which is the example, what kind of communicate. This is the type of communication, and here is the description. So simple hai. Prayer in silence, which means you are like talking to yourself, right? Prayer in silence. Definitely not group communication. Grapevine is not, because it is all about the keyword. If you remember, grapevine is what it is about, rumor. Simple. So D second is where in only one option. Through that you can answer. Prayer in silence, like interpersonal communication, you're communicating, in silence to yourself. So intrapersonal communication, it can be A3 is there itself. And the teacher talking to a student outside the classroom can be what? 3. Where is it? B4. Group communication. And the CEO of company issues a circular to his subordinate. It is what? Vertical. And the rumor is of course about grapevine, and it's quite easy. If you would, we have already a video based on that too. So prayer in silence typically involves personal communication between an individual and their higher power or inner self, right? The right word, if you can say, intrapersonal. And teachers talking to students can be group communication, because they are interacting outside the classroom. It usually what involves a group communication settings or group discussion. So the CEO of a company, group communication, not CEO of a company issues a circular to his. It is a vertical form of communication where information flows, remember, to top level to lower. So top down method, remember that. Rumor is simple. It is about grapevine, and it is what it refers to the spread of unofficial or informal information through informal channel within an organizational group known as grapevine. So remember that. So we have the answer. Question number 21 we'll discuss at 4 o'clock. Be there, and we'll have the discussion on the rest of the question. So I hope you understand. Now you got the idea about communication. We have revised somewhat like half of the syllabus. The remaining will do it at 4 o'clock. So be there. Thank you so much. Bye bye. See you at 4. And immediately after this class, we'll have a PYQ on paper 2 2021. We have already finished 2023, 2022. Now we are going to discuss 2021. We'll begin after 1 hour or half an hour. Maybe 12:30. I'll see you there. Okay. So for now,